I would like to thank you for taking an interest in this presentation, and I'll give you a short overview of what's to come. So I will first introduce the concepts of musical mindfulness in the context of my work with clients with profound and multiple learning difficulties and sensory processing difficulties. And in this presentation I will talk about how our team has been able to deliver sessions remotely via Zoom since the first lockdown in the UK. And I will also share some of the recorded resources that we've made available for people to use, and they were based on the activities we've been doing in live sessions. I will talk about the function of the music and how it contributes to making mindfulness activities more accessible, including for clients who find verbal processing difficult. So, what is musical mindfulness? Musical mindfulness brings together elements from music therapy and mindfulness with the aim to support the development of sensory integration, breath and body awareness, movement and relaxation skills. The interventions used in musical mindfulness sessions harness the benefits of breathing exercises, mindful movement, visualization and progressive body relaxation. The music is used to support and make the interventions accessible on deeper and non-verbal levels. I first started developing the concept during my yoga teacher training, and whilst I was also working as a music therapist in schools with children with PMLD and sensory processing difficulties. And the aim was to find a way to bring the benefits of mindfulness interventions to children with limited verbal understanding. So I had noticed that there were quite a few overlaps between some of our group music therapy aims and the potential benefits of mindfulness approaches on sensory integration and regulation. So now as a team, as we've been exploring this session format further, we also started to think about the positive impact on attention, communication, relationship building and learning. Mostly as a result of supporting clients to be in the window of optimal arousal after sessions. Now, all the components that go into musical mindfulness sessions aim to offer a rounded experience, and they address body, soul and mind of each client. But also being part of a group further amplifies the experience through observation of other group members and jointly experiencing different energy levels in the group. Well, I'll next tell you a little bit about what happens in a session. So, musical mindfulness sessions usually last between 45 and 60 minutes. Depending on the group and also timetable availability in schools. And there are often between about 3 to 7 group members, as well as their support staff, of course. In those sessions, all support staff is usually asked to actively take part in relaxations and visualizations as a way to model, but also to hold the energy in the group. Sometimes that can be quite nice because often their days are very busy, and it's often the first time in the day when they're actually told to please just sit and relax, and that being the best way to really support the group. The therapist uses either guitar or piano and voice to interact with the group musically, and some of the visualizations or relaxations might use pre-recorded music or music specifically composed to support a visualization. The sessions usually start with a welcome chant and they finish with a goodbye chant, and they both offer turns to each group member. So in the beginning, this of course allows people to settle in and have time to really arrive in the session, and also for the therapist to get a sense of where the group's energy is on the day. And at the end, it's really quite important to leave enough time for people to finish the session and transition back out, because a lot of the people are actually able to relax really deeply in sessions. So it just takes a little bit of time to re-emerge before maybe transitioning into a busy corridor or other environments, which can sometimes feel a little overwhelming coming straight out of quite deep relaxation. The other components going into the session include musical breathing, body awareness and movement with music, and also relaxation and visualizations with music. So the order isn't strictly set in this way, and it very much depends on the energy of the group on a certain day, but also at a given point in the session. So the therapist is flexible here to take this from the group and respond accordingly. And very much the concept of meeting the group, where the group is very much applies both in live sessions but also in the online format. There is space for group members, of course, to make their own suggestions, mostly in body awareness and movement-based activities, but also with their pace of breath, and where the music reflects this back to the rest of the group. So there is space to hold focus on each group member and share in this way with others what their pace is on the day. And there was, of course, also increasing self-awareness through this musical reflection. Support staff offer minimal support for physical movement and independent engagement at each person's own level of ability is very much encouraged, no matter how small this is or how big this is, but independence is quite important here. Now, more specifically about the music mindfulness online sessions, my team and I have been offering musical mindfulness sessions via Zoom to all the families at one of the special needs schools where we work. And this started since the first lockdown in the UK. So over the weeks and months, we had a core group of families who attended very regularly, and the offer remained open to all the other families in the school as well to join in at any given time. Similar to the sessions in the live settings, family members were invited to experience the breathing and relaxation techniques for themselves, whilst also supporting gently some of the movement-based activities if this was necessary. The content of the online sessions was equally guided by the group's needs on a given day. So sometimes more focus on active physical engagement if the energy maybe was quite high in the beginning, whilst on other occasions we spent more time on grounding and relaxation. And again, the sessions also gave opportunities for individual expression and group connection by offering turns to each client to lead some of the parts in the movement-based activities. So even though the participant sounds were muted to avoid a lot of background noise, it was possible for the group members to see each other on the screens and communicate their choices, and then the therapists were able to reflect this back to the rest of the group so that the group could follow each member's contributions in that way. Now, why add music? So the music in the interventions is thought about aesthetically, of course, but mostly functionally as well, for how it can best support and enhance the aims of an intervention and often also bridge verbal barriers. I'll go into each section in more detail in a moment, and we'll look at the use of musical entrainment, how music can support pace and quality of breathing, how music illustrates visualizations, and how music encourages active movement and supports the development of body awareness. The thinking behind the musical input comes from areas of neurologic music therapy, music and imagery, and biology. Starting with musical entrainment first. Musical entrainment has, of course, been researched in many different areas, and some of that knowledge is being applied here when thinking about the rhythm and also the pace of the music in supporting breathing activities, for example. So rhythmic entrainment is the synchronization between an internal oscillator and an external musical beat. Rhythmic entrainment leads to a decrease of sympathetic arousal, and it supports mental and physical relaxation and well-being. Rhythmic entrainment can change the way we feel emotionally, and rhythmic entrainment occurs on the perceptual, autonomic, motor, and social level. So one of the great benefits here is that a lot of this bypasses very complex cognitive processing. So the music can reach people on different internal mechanisms through listening and feeling the music in the body. This then leads quite nicely to music and breathing. Thinking more specifically about musical entrainment and breathing, our respiration rhythm is often coupled with the rhythm of body movement. Breathing can be entrained by listening to music, and the tempo of the music also affects our heart rate and blood pressure. Resonance frequency breathing is a type of slow and diaphragmatic breathing at around 3 to 7 breath cycles per minute. Resonance frequency breathing reduces stress, it supports emotional regulation, and has a regulating effect on the autonomic nervous system and also other key body systems such as the circulatory system. So knowing this allows us to specifically choose a tempo, for example, for the music, which brings people into a relaxed state and also encourages deeper breathing. I will show you an example of the recorded resources that we have offered people to use at home as well as in the sessions. This one is a breathing activity that you can try out for yourself. So maybe for the next few moments, just sit back and maybe even close your eyes and just breathe along with the music and see how that makes you feel. Moving on then to music and visualization. So the visualizations in the sessions are kept quite simple and explore sensory themes, for example, feeling light or grounded or floating or walking in or imagining nature settings. And here the choice of pre-recorded music and improvised accompanying music is quite important, as it isn't just an accompanying layer. But for many people with verbal processing difficulties, it is actually what brings the visualization to life and makes it more accessible on a sensory and emotional level. And the music, of course, also offers a holding space for the group to enjoy being together in an experience. So here is another example of a musical visualization that we have used in sessions and have also offered people to use at home. Close your eyes and let your body become still. Take a few deep breaths and imagine yourself in a landscape covered in snow. Slowly walking along and taking in what's around you. Maybe even feeling the gentle snowflakes falling down. Noticing nature around you. Noticing smells and seeing textures around you. Letting the snow make everything feel calm. Noticing the crisp freshness of the air on your skin. The musical activities for the body awareness and movement parts of the session incorporate two interventions outlined in the NMT approach, including RAS and PSE. So RAS stands for Rhythmic Auditory Stimulation, and it facilitates the rehabilitation of movements that are intrinsically biologically rhythmical. RAS uses the physiological effect of auditory rhythm on the motor system. RAS acts as an immediate entrainment stimulus, providing rhythmic cues during movement. Pattern sensory enhancement uses the rhythmic, melodic, harmonic and dynamic acoustical elements of music to provide temporal, spatial and force cues for movements which reflect functional exercises and activities of daily living. It has a broader application than RAS, as it is not just applied to movements that are rhythmical by nature. So in practical terms, this means that we can use rhythm and pace and overall musical expression to encourage and support different types and qualities of movement. The group members in the sessions had, of course, a range of mobility, and the music offered a really lovely way for them to be able to engage at their own level of ability with their motor skills. Now, the two following examples show two of the movement patterns which became quite strong favourites in the group for grounding and slowing down. And they also integrated into other more improvised activities. Both of the examples happen to be on the gentle side, but a lot of the movement-based interaction and activities actually became quite lively in the sessions as well. Now, whilst you're listening, you might want to move along with the music, or just imagine the movement, or see how the music starts to move your body a little bit, and again, just see how that feels. There are several benefits to working with music receptively and encouraging engagement through body, breath and listening. So first of all, it can make sessions quite practical. So when we were informed about the first lockdown, we had to figure out fairly quickly what we might be able to offer to families remotely, and whilst also not necessarily being able to rely on families having musical equipment at home. So the benefit of using receptive music interventions is of course that the sessions can be offered quite easily in many in-person settings, but also that they can be transferred to remote online platform fairly easily. And the other thing was that there have been no concerns about needing any prerequisites in terms of musical skills in order to take part and join in. It makes the sessions accessible. So one of the aims of the sessions is to develop a sense of self and independence, and using the breath and body movement seems quite a good way to do this. So sometimes playing an instrument can turn a bit into an obstacle and a distraction for people who have quite severe limitations in their motor skills, whilst drawing on the receptive uses of music can make sessions more accessible in that way. And connecting with the breath is quite a subtle thing to do and might take a little while to maybe build up or develop, but it is something that everybody is bringing to the session, and it is a very common baseline where everybody can start from. And then also thinking about people with very limited physical movement, it's really important in the sessions to encourage independent movement, no matter how small, or maybe even just working with the body awareness, or even just feeling the music in the body and cultivating that kind of subtle understanding can feel quite empowering. And of course, as we were delivering the sessions online to the families at home, it had the benefit that everybody could take part at the same time. So quite often we had siblings there and parents, sometimes grandparents, and everybody was able to take part together. Using pre-composed or pre-recorded music for parts of the session over a number of weeks or months can help group members build their own relationship and associations with the music, which then makes it easier to offer recorded resources and reconnect to them outside of sessions. So people have been able to reconnect to experiences from sessions and also further develop skills that we've been trying to work on in sessions. So for example, breath and body awareness, motor skills and relaxation skills. And of course, the aim of any of the things that we are doing in the sessions is so that the learned experiences can eventually transfer to wider contexts and be used if and when needed. I would like to conclude with some feedback from some of the families who have been taking part very regularly, as I felt it was quite important to have their voices reflected in the presentation as well. So I'm going to leave this here with you for you to read. And if you would like to see any more of the pre-recorded resources, you can find them on www.karinreeslivewell.com. And thank you very much for listening to the presentation today.